Welcome to the Growth Pod. Today on the podcast, we have Mike Capuzzi, who's an American best-selling author, publisher, and coach for business owners and aggressive entrepreneurs looking to get to the next level in their business. Throughout his 27 years in marketing and his 24 years as a consultant, Mike's diligent and innovative use of high-impact marketing has consistently surpassed the expectations and outcomes of traditional corporate marketing concepts and business strategies for his clients. Mike has been a guest speaker on the stages of some of the world's foremost experts on marketing, including Dan Kennedy, Bill Glazer, Rory Fatt, Ed Rush, and Julie Steinbacher. To date, Mike has helped thousands of business owners create more profitable marketing. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Angela, thank you very much.
I am very excited for our conversation today. You're going to let us know how we can stand out as a business owner by being a published author. But before we get started, can you share a little bit about why business owners should even consider being a published author to begin with?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, Angela, the fact that we're still, even in 2024, conditioned to think that authors are somebody special, they've taken the time, they're smarter, whatever it might be, right? So people are used to putting authors at typically a higher pedestal, if you will. We're also used to paying for books. Even though there's a lot of free book opportunities out there, we're used to going to Amazon or to a bookstore. So books are an asset that we are conditioned typically to pay for. So those two ideas really make books and being a book author different than a lot of other types of marketing. So that's what I help people with. So for example, nobody's paying for your business card, Angela. No one's paying to look at your website. But once you publish that book, because I know you're going to work on one here in the future, they're going to buy it on Amazon. They're going to pay for it. And by that very nature, it changes the feeling that this is just marketing content to this is a book that has valuable content, et cetera. So that's one key difference. And then again, like I said, the status, the authority, the expert limelight, if you will, that a lot of people put on authors really enables business owners to differentiate themselves. So real quick, let's just say we're talking about a local chiropractor, for example, in a small town, whatever it might be, but in your town. Chiropractor A, just doing the typical marketing, we'll fix your back, we'll fix your neck, whatever. Chiropractor B, promotes her book that she wrote on the 10 ways to, help your back pain. That's a whole different level of marketing. It's a whole different level of, positioning. And, oftentimes, that person who's written that book, as long as everything else remains the same, will be the go-to choice.
Yeah. And something that I've seen you talk a lot about is that writing a book doesn't have to be a chore. In fact, I've bought two of your books before this podcast. And for the audio listeners, I'm holding them up. They're very specific size and they're quite short. So you talk a lot about this specific type of book and you call it a shook. Can you tell us a little bit more about a shook and how it can make the transition from business owner to author a little bit easier?
First of all, I love it. I think, and I've been on a lot of shows and I have my own podcast. You are the first host that has ever bought my books and done that kind of due diligence before the interview. So thank you. So a shook is our brand. It's my brand. It stands for short, helpful book, right? So I kind of mashed those words and made up shook. That in itself is a little marketing lesson, right? There's a ton of people that help business owners publish books, but nobody except us, Mike Capuzzi, Bite Size Books, is publishing shooks. So shooks are about an hour read, about a 60-minute read, about 100 to 120 pages. They're done that way, Angela, and you know this because you've read them. It's intentionally small. It's designed to say, listen, Angela, let's have a conversation, you and I, an hour conversation. I'm going to teach you about the power of being a book author, et cetera. And if you want more from me, you can get more from me. But for this conversation, for this book, this shook, we're going to get together, an hour and a half, whatever. So a typical business book that you buy on Amazon, 60, 75, 100,000 words, it could literally take years to write. A shook is about 12 to 15,000 words. And it's a heck of a lot quicker to write, Angela. Whether it's your first book, That's a great way for a first-time author. We have dealt with many clients who've written and published and spent gobs of money on traditional books, and now they come to us because they see the value of this short, helpful content. So that's what a shook is.
Amazing. So now that we know what a shook is, what are the tips that you have for a business owner who wants to begin writing their own shook?
So the thing to understand, first of all, if there's any head trash like, oh, I'm not a great writer, who am I to write a book? Who am I to do this, et cetera, et cetera. I failed English, whatever it might be. Get that out of your mind. Okay. It's like you said, it does not have to be a challenge. I always encourage our clients to write like they talk. People like authenticity. They like real people, especially when it's like local business owners, for example. They want to know and get to know, like, and trust you, the person, not some facade, right? So just don't worry about any of that typical head trash. The number one thing, Angela, I would think of, well, there's actually two things I would think of. First of all, who is your ideal reader for the shook, right? That's really key because not everyone should be reading your book, okay? You want to target this and think, okay, who am I best able to serve? Who am I looking to attract more of? And write your short, helpful book to that individual, for example. Then after you identify that target audience, the next big thing is what I call sort of the big idea. Like, what can you share? Most of us are doing the same thing that our competition is doing, right? I'm a marketing consultant. I'm a book publisher. There's a ton of people that do the same thing. So it's imperative that you figure out ways to describe what you do, how you do it in what sounds like a unique way. And that takes work. That takes effort. It can be done. So again, going back to our chiropractors typically all do the same thing. But how does chiropractor A differentiate herself from chiropractor B with her unique system, her unique strategies, tips, whatever it is, right? Procedures. You've got to figure that out and then wrap that into your book, because we call that your special sauce, right? That's what makes you uniquely different than all the other people who do the same thing you do. So those are the two things. Who's your target audience and what's your big idea?
I love that. For me, when I'm writing my book, I wasn't really sure what my big idea was going to be, but by the process of sitting down and kind of like creating an outline and then filling it in a little bit and mulling on it over a couple of days, I was able to create my big idea and be like, oh yeah, this is actually the special sauce that sets me apart from my competitors when I'm consulting. So do you find that type of process works for your clients, or do you recommend that they sit down and do all of this, like, what is my special sauce kind of background work before they get started?
Typically, when they work with us, and specifically they're working directly with me, we brainstorm it, right? So we get on Zooms and such, and we brainstorm these ideas. And these aren't just newbie business owners. I've dealt with folks that have been in business 20, 30 years, and they still don't necessarily know how to articulate their special sauce. But it's really thinking about, let's say you collect customer reviews, client reviews. What are your clients and customers saying about you? A lot of times you can glean little nuggets that will help you identify that. You are the expert. You know what you do. It really just becomes incumbent to figure out ways to make it sound new, different, exciting, unique. And that's really the strategy. So it takes time. So good for you for doing it. It will evolve. What you figure out here in 2024 is probably going to be different than 2027. So, be prepared for that too. But it can really be a very, very powerful exercise to go through that.
Yeah. As somebody's special sauce evolves, do you recommend that they go back and update their book?
Yeah.
Okay. So try to keep it constantly up to date.
I do. I recommend that because a couple reasons. And I do that all the time because self-publishing and hybrid publishing, like what we do, it makes it very, very simple to make those kind of updates, Angela. So yeah, the days of you write a book and it's done. I mean, a lot of people still do that, right? But technology has made it so easy to update it. So if all of a sudden you figured out a new special component to your special sauce, plug that in. Yeah, when I wrote you showed the magic of short books. So I wrote that book in 2018. This is probably the 7th or 8th version of it. You wouldn't know that, but we're constantly updating it. Feedback from our clients, things I see, missed opportunities, fixing mistakes. So yeah, I would keep it fresh.
Okay, so
and by the way, sorry to interrupt real quick. The other thing is use it in all your marketing, right? It's not just meant to be in your book. Use that effort that you created, that special sauce, and have it permeate your website, whatever trainings you do, whatever it might be.
yeah, I think that's really key. The number one thing that I'm finding when going through this process of writing my own shook is that it's forcing me to think about these ideas and communicate them in a way that's much more effective than any of my marketing has been to date. So it's going to make my website better. It's going to make all of the communications that I have with clients and prospects better. And it's going to make just kind of like the whole marketing ecosystem, that's actually what my book's going to be on, the whole marketing ecosystem function a lot better. So with that, these books are really quite short. You mentioned 100 to 120 pages. Can they really be effective? Are we able to effectively put ideas in this book? And then something you talk about is using them as a sales tool. So how do you fit all of that in just 100 pages?
Well, let me answer your first question. And if I forget the second one, remind me. So if you and I were just, after this is over, if you and I were to sit down and continue this meeting for an hour, for the next 60 minutes, do you think I might be able to help you write even a better shook or maybe think about your own marketing differently? All right. Well, there's the answer, right? A shook is a 60-minute conversation in written format, right? In a book format. So yeah, it can be super impactful. You showed my other shook, the 100-page book. When I last checked how many copies of that we sold, I published that in 2020, right during COVID. And at last count was over 10,000 copies, which on one hand is not a lot. On the other hand, it's not too bad. So that means at least 10,000 people have been impacted. I bump into people. I was just on, what was it, the other day? Oh, a new client. That's what it was. A new client joined, and we do a first meeting. And the way he found out about me was because two different people that are in his inner circle gave him copies of my book. So like this, the way it all works is it's just amazing. And yes, it can be very, very powerful. When you publish a book and it's out there for the world, whether it's your local community or on Amazon for the world, the amount of possible impact is amazing. And I mean, that relies on the fact, and you and I were talking about this earlier, it's got to be a good book. It's got to be a quality book. You have to have good reviews. It's got to be real, right? It's got to be good, right? Short, helpful. And when that happens, magic can happen.
I love that. I will just plug your book one more time. You go into all the things about how you can make your book not only a book, but also a sales tool. And I think we can go so into the weeds on all of that, but it's better if somebody just picks up your book. So it will be linked in the show notes. But I want to know, for the people who are inspired from this episode to write their own book, they have it written. What do you do now? You have your book. What do you do with it after?
It is the critical part. So I will tell you this, Angela, and you're going to experience this when you get your book published. Writing the book, publishing the book is the easy part. As much as that, you may like, you're crazy, Mike. It took me weeks, months, years, whatever it is, right? It's the easy part. Marketing and promoting and giving that book out. I call it the consistent, persistent promotion of the book, day in and day out, is the harder part. So it's a long-term game. This is not something like, hey, I published my book, I'm going to market it for 3 weeks and be done. Unfortunately, a lot of people do that. And unfortunately, there's people with boxes of books in their closet, et cetera. It's a long-term play, Angela. You have to figure out ways to use it, keep it fresh, get on podcasts, whatever it might be, to keep it out there and keep it circulating. Doing paid advertising on Amazon and other venues. So there's no shortage, but I don't know if you read it yet, but you'll have to in the future. The Magic of Free Books. It's a book about how to use. Now, typically our authors are just giving their book away as much as possible, but whether you sell it or give it away, it doesn't matter. But in that book, I share 50 or 60 tips on how to use your book once it's done. And that list is not exhaustive. So yeah, it's a grind.
Yeah. I also read that book before. That's the magic of free books and short books, because I was able to read 3 of your books before we hopped onto our show today.
Because they were short, right?
They were short and they were easy to read, where most guests, they have the typical nonfiction, really thick book, where I'm lucky to get through, maybe a third of it before I'm able to have a conversation with them. But in your book, The Magic of Free Books, you talk about so many ways to give your book away, and that the goal after you publish could be that you give a book away every single day. So if there's 30 days in a month, you should aim to give away 30 books, which I thought was really transformative, because I mentioned before, one of the things that you really talk about is using your book as a sales tool. And so therefore, by giving your book away, though it's going to cost you a little bit upfront, it should reap a large ROI in the long run.
As long as you're giving it away to the right people, right? That's that key thing about just making sure. Like, obviously, me being on your podcast, a business-oriented business growth podcast, your audience, your listeners are ideal for me. Me being on, a cooking podcast probably wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
Absolutely. So you really have to think about the type of people that you're trying to reach with your book, and then the type of clients that you're trying to bring in your door by writing your book. What's next for you, Mike? You have written over 15 books. You help people write books. Is there a new project you're working on? I'm really curious what you are up to.
Thinking about retirement. Thinking about moving away and getting a lot of land and just being away from it all. Partially true. We are doing some updates on our end of just doubling down. We have carved a really nice little niche for our short books. There's others that do it. I see, maybe they're copycats, maybe they're not. I don't know. We work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and corporate leaders. So, getting out there, sharing the gospel of short books, if you will, that's not going away soon. I have some side projects that have nothing to do with book publishing and stuff like that are in unique industries. We just built a big membership site for that. So these are different companies I'm partners in. So I've got some unique things that I'm not going to share publicly just because it doesn't really make sense for your audience. But just, there's those things that keep us busy. But I just want to I will tell you, Angela, and you'll see this as you grow your consulting business and, help more and more people. It really is very cool when you bump into somebody, someone leaves a review, someone emails you, whatever it might be. And they say, you know what, you really helped me. I'm struggling. I figured this out. And that's what keeps you going, because, most of the time you don't hear from folks, even clients. I work with clients for, 3 months, straight. They publish their book and then I don't hear from them again. Maybe that's on me, but, it's just that knowing that you're helping people is what keeps me going. And, we'll just keep seeing where this takes us.
I love that. If someone wants to keep up with you, potentially because they want to write their own short book or because they just want to kind of keep up with what you're doing, where's the best place for them to do that?
Well, with your permission, can I offer a gift?
Of course.
All right. So we have 3 shooks. I call it my magic kit: the magic of gratitude, the magic of working together, and the magic of short books, which you did read, right?
Yep.
So I have like I said, my magic kit. Now, these are digital books. If you want the print versions, you have to go to Amazon. 2 of those you can't get on Amazon. But regardless, they're digital books. I'll email you a link. You can read them online, the whole book. There's nothing left out. But if you go to mikecapuzzi.com/magic, it's a hidden page. And just let me know you heard me on Angela's podcast. I'll email you the links and you'll have 3 of my shooks to check out.
Amazing. I'm definitely going to have to check out those other 2. I read The Magic of Short Books and I got so much out of it. So if you're listening and you're interested at all in what Mike is doing, the link he just said will also be in the show notes, in case you're like me and you are like driving while you're listening to this and you want to make sure that you have it later. Everything will be there for you. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Angela, thank you. And again, congratulations on all you're doing.
Yay, thank you. And let this be my thank you to you. Like, you have helped me just through your shooks. So I want to express my gratitude for coming on the podcast, sharing everything that you know with our audience, but also just putting out these really helpful books. So thank you.
I have one more little offer before I can't let it go. When your shook is published, whether it's a shook or not, Angela, I'll invite you on my podcast. I've been doing it for 5 years, called The Author Factor. And I only interview nonfiction book authors, which I assume you're going to be. So we'll have you on my podcast.
I would love that. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode of The Growth Pod, please leave us a review. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Hey, Angela here. My new book just came out and I want you to have it for free. The book is called Your Marketing Ecosystem: How Brands Can Market Less and Sell More. In the book, I break down the exact system I use to help my clients significantly reduce acquisition costs, improve their ad efficiency, find new high-growth marketing channels, and most importantly, create profitable marketing strategies. So if you're a small business owner looking to cut through the noise and invest in high-impact marketing channels, or a medium to large organization who wants to understand why your marketing is underperforming and how you can create a profitable marketing strategy, this book is for you. The strategies in this book have changed the profitability of my clients' marketing strategies, and I know they can do the same for you. To start implementing them in your business today for free, visit yourbrandevolved.com/free book. When you get the book, you're not only getting the exact roadmap that I use to create profitable ecosystems, but you're also getting access to the resource portal that I've put together as an exclusive gift for readers of the book. The portal has swipe files, tool and tech recommendations, and other resources designed to help you create a profitable marketing strategy. There's absolutely no cost for those resources. You get access to them when you get the book. So what are you waiting for? Visit yourbrandevolved.com/free book and get your copy today for free.